What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to cut into the firewall of the E36. In the last episode there, I kind of went over the plan of how we're going to shave the entire firewall, get rid of every single hole. So over the last week or so, I've been kind of making a plan and deciding which way is going to be the easiest for this. So we're going to get kind of right into that, start drilling out some spot holes and explaining why we went this way instead of that way. This might be a two-parter. I might do the passenger side, driver side. I might do it all in one go, depending on how ambitious I get with this video. But with that, we're going to set you up and start explaining what we're doing. Okay, so passenger side here. The bottom part will come out as a hole, but over the last little bit, I got thinking about how to deal with all this mess. And initially, I was thinking we make a cover plate, fill in the couple holes, grind it all smooth. But after that, I realized what's probably going to be the easiest is we make a plate for this one, maybe. But this is going to go up. We're going to cut it off where it overlaps right here, by taking out our 5 or 6 spot welds here, our spot welds there, obviously taking off this lip that we no longer need, the couple spot welds there, and this whole front panel is just going to come out of that spot, and then we'll get into cutting this out, which we're going to use this crease line right here and bring it down to this point all the way across, up and over with a lip to the inside in there, and replace this, and it's going to be nice and smooth. And that's this side. The driver side, probably the exact same thing. We might cut this area out just to get rid of the ribs, because I don't think I want to add them to this side. I want a nice smooth, because once I add the little bit of body filler, you'll never see that these are two separate panels. So I'll probably do that here. Same with get rid of all this. We got a lot of filling and custom panels obviously to make through here, but with further ado, let's start drilling out spot holes and see how far we can get with this. Okay, so with that, we've got our first section opened up. If I move that light just right. We will be, you can see that I did this hole and this hole. We're gonna cut it, I think, along this edge and bring all this across into one piece. And now we're gonna get into here, which, again, move the light around. I think our weld joint is going to be up here because we're going to bring this up, weld, kind of turn it over, weld from the bottom side to the bottom of this panel, since this is all one piece, and then this will come down. Normally you could do this in one go, but I'm going to keep this line, keep it two separate pieces, even though I'm going to body work it in. It just saves from having a weird spot over here. Actually, I might be able to make this in one piece, and because I'm going to use a line over here, it might hide the fact that I have a panel here, a panel here. We'll see how this goes putting it back together, but first, some more cutting. And just like that, we got no more firewall on this side. But you can see what I'm talking about, like how much dimpling and play and different indents this thing has for all the stuff that was here. Like these were from the secondary air injection mount that was there. This is for all the harness that went along the outside. This is for the harness for the battery and all that. That's right there, which again, we'll remount and make this a lot better, but starting with a nice flat firewall, I think this will be a lot better. So we're gonna get this edge off, same with this, get it down to here to get rid of the bump out. Probably cut that tab, and we'll bring this up, and we'll start making a new piece in there. Okay, so as you can see, we got the entire lower section cut out. I've also cut it back to about where it starts to angle up from here. Cut up. We'll just make a small little indent here instead of trying to bring it across and around. But it's going to go up, come underneath here, all the way to the wall, and I'll add a brace from here to the back side, because after cutting all this, I think the best course of action is one whole sheet, as there's not too many bends that I have to do. I've got to make a flanged bend for this side, a flange bend for this side, and just connect to here. So I'll go from the inside from here out, and we'll weld or stitch a little flange for this to here just to add that strength back in, as this used to be the firewall down. But overall, this is our big hole we've now made in the front end, and it's going to look a lot better with a nice flat piece. I was debating whether or not to do some bead rolling in here. The only issue is I don't have a real way to mount that up just yet. If I can get it set just right, I might run a bead or two through it or something, but I will show that if I do it, because I want to make this side and this side match. So if this one stays dead smooth, like a lot of this, like I've half debated going back and cutting this out and just going straight smooth, but I do kind of like the little inset pocket on either side, kind of still gives it a little depth of difference. So we're gonna get out the paper and start drawing out what we need here. I think one piece will work. It's gonna be a little bit more work to make it one piece, but I think it works. Okay, so for our first little bit, we're gonna get our rough sizing instead of trying to fit the paper in here. So we know at our lowest down here, it's 12 inches. Midway, it's 14 inches, which you can tell it goes right up and we won't need to go much more. So we're gonna cut our piece 14 inches plus probably another inch, which will give us a little bit for this side, put a 1/2 inch flange on this side. And then from top to bottom, looking at about 16.5-ish inches, 16 3/4. We'll go probably 18. Again, gives us space for flanging here and a little bit past here, because I'm not sure if I'm going to get butted right up to this, because it'll be hard to clean this edge, or if I'll go past it and maybe add a little step, because I'll be putting seam sealer along this edge again just to round it out and make it clean, because we'll be going along there too. So let's get over the paper and draw this out, our basic. We have our basic, relatively large piece here. So up here we have a deep flange, which if we put our light, we need from edge to the back about 1.5 inches from here to here. So that'll be our first bend, 1.5 inches to get us down. So that gets us here, but obviously we can't fit anything in easily. So we'll take the measurement from here to here and here to here, which I believe was 16 3/4 anyway, but we can do that from the inside to give us the best number. So right up into the edge, we're looking at 13 3/4 on this side. I know it's not right at the edge, but 16 on this side. So we need to start a good angle downward, but this is really the angle we're looking at. So this is probably more flat than this, which will affect all of this. So in reality, what we should do, instead of using that bend, we will put that to the bottom, which still works. It gives us a flat edge, but we will trace this top edge because it's angular. Okay, so far, very basics. It's getting us there. Obviously, we have this line here causing us a little grief. So we'll get this clamped. And we'll go from the inside and draw a line to where that cut is. So we have our general shape of this. We might actually leave this as a piece to go in. I might make that a separate piece, but we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so I know my clamp's a little in the way. You can see we're flush up to there with that. This will need a little bit of trimming, but we have our first start. This edge, I know I added it over here to make the flange, but we just know that we need to add a 1/2 inch or so for the flange on this side, which is no big deal. Now from here, because I can feel along here, we will make the line that follows it down to here, then deal with wherever that lands. Then we'll start cutting this into a piece. It's this simple. Once you get it cut out, the longest part is doing this, and I've got a lot of experience cutting holes like this. When it comes to my steel, I'll cut it ever so slightly longer on some of the sides just to trim it in. Like, this side will just get flanged. This flange will probably be just done as is because it's kind of a permanent spot. Same with that. But this side, I'll cut just an 1/8 bigger just so that we can trim the body and the sheet into exactly where it needs to be. But I'll be right back to get this planted in. Okay, so I have the overall shape that I need. I know I need to add probably about a 1/2 inch to the bottom. I need to add about 5/8 to this edge just to fill in that little gap, plus have the turn to the back. The top, I'm still debating if I'm going to leave this piece or if I'm going to add that flange afterwards so I can get that angle perfect. But this is our overall shape that we're going to start with. So we're going to draw it out over there on our sheet and start mocking this up. Okay, basic line drawn out. We're going to cut this. That's that extra edge to be bent underneath the side. Our lower that we wanted to add a little bit more to. And this side, we're going to, when we put it in, it's a hard toss-up of how and where you add extra metal. I could cut just on the outside of this line all the way. We put it in and we keep scribing it and cutting it down until it fits, which is probably the best way to go about it, as you have this that's a little bit more technical. This edge, it's a bend, so you can get away with it not being perfect. We're gonna weld it along, grind it nice and smooth, so that'll be fine. This side will essentially dictate this side, I think, because I'm going to go along and make a nice 1/2 inch flange all the way down this side, which will dictate how much extra material I have off of this side. So with that bent, I'm going to add just a little bit of material off of this line, because what I'm going to do is get that radius right along the rain tray, and then we'll add this section I'll cut over here and weld it along the top, clean it, so I just want it to go in, come down, and be a perfect 90 degree underneath there, and I want this angle so it doesn't look like it's dipped anywhere. I don't have to hammer up here or anything. I want this center section to fall into place and be able to weld around, and when that fits the way I want it to fit, we'll weld that on. And again, down here, honestly, I think the best way to go about it will be a butt weld back up to the factory firewall edge, as if I try to step it, I'll still have a weird edge, and I don't think it'll make it any easier. So with that, I'll get the saw and we'll get this all cut out. Okay, now that we have it trimmed down, we're gonna add maybe only a 1/2 inch, even though that gives me way more material on this side. A 1/2 inch flange along this side, and we'll start bending it over. So again, we're going to clamp it like this. This is going to get us about 90% of the way, or hopefully 90% of the way, as my bender, my tipper has that angle to it, so I can go in like this and get down to till this touches the flat, which gives you most of the bend, and then we'll get the rest of it. Once I have my bead roller over there set up, we'll be able to tip an edge like this by just rolling it through the roller. But I need to get myself some 2x2 and some other bar and make a stand, plus stiffen up the upper rail so it doesn't fall in as I go. But for what we're doing, this will still work almost perfectly, as these are semi-critical but also not critical bends. This one's going to be hidden in a corner underneath a small skim of seam sealer, so I'm not worried about it being absolutely perfect. I'm just want to make sure I have the edge I'm looking for. As you can see, we got most of the way there. I could probably get the rest with this, but we'll start tapping it. Okay, so I crudely set it up, just try it for what I needed. And I hope you can see it did an all right job just squaring up that corner for me. So we'll get this working better because it is a nice thing to have, but as you can see, a lot nicer corner. This is the edge you're going to see. It's going to have a little strip of seam sealer there. So with that, let's move back over to the car and start fitting this up and taking it out and doing that about a dozen different times till it fits the way we need it to. Okay, so we're fitting it up. I got to do a little bit more trimming right here to get it to match this curve. But right about here is where it goes from more of a flat to pointed outward. So we're going to draw a line directly across here. And you could do this all different ways now that you're making it the way you want. You could take this and go to the top corner and bend it out that way so it kind of has a different look to it. You go straight across like what I want to do just because I want to keep that nice line across here. You could also take it to that corner and just push that out. There's no wrong way to do this. So whatever makes you the happiest, whatever makes your vehicle look the way you want it to, which with this I need. Admittedly, my car is not level, so we'll go to the driver's side off the line and see, oddly, that line is actually level on this side, so I'm actually surprised. So we'll start there. And go there. And now we have our line to where we want this to start to bend out. And we'll get that top one a little bit more refined. Because once this line is refined, then we'll work our way through these with this bend down to here. And we'll be almost done very quickly. Don't know how well, there it is. That's how much we got to trim off that top edge to make this fit. Okay. That's a lot better. Take our scraper, wherever. again, you can see the scribe line versus the drawn line where it's going to land. And we'll give this that quick little bend. So, Okay, we're gonna get out the stretcher for 1 second, which maybe because I have something solid right here to clamp to. way out there. So you can see this one's the stretcher by the fact that the arrows point out, which means when you pull this up and you push down on it hard, these teeth in here are going to pull outward. The other ones will start with a gap in the middle and they pull inward, which are shrinkers. Okay, so I did this little weird setup. It is totally not the best way to do this, but it'll be the best way to at least show it. You see my line here. It is set between the teeth of my stretcher. So the teeth on the stretcher, I'll grab the shrinker. You see how there's a gap right there? So on the shrinker, when you press down on the handle, those teeth are going to come together and pull the material. So on a bend like this, it would end up pushing the flange backward on both sides. This one, the teeth are together, and when you push down on the arm, it's going to pull this apart, which is going to take these and move them outward versus inward, which just a quick little one will give me hopefully enough bend in this corner to what I need for the firewall. Sorry, my light is freaking out. So let's move you back to where some light is. So after 2 or 3 pushes with it, you can see we have a small bend, which will give me my straight down and angled down to that lower part. So now I'm just gonna kind of physically bend this and we'll test it again. Okay, so back over here on the car, you can see I have a crisp line here. I ended up setting up the rollers, again, very half-assed kind of style. Flipped these ones to run here and kind of pushed on the panel as I went through. So we've got more of a crisp line, kind of like this one in here. And we're a lot closer down here. If I go and push it in with my hand, we get closer, but obviously we're kind of long, which is expected. And we fit up pretty nice here. I know you see a gap, but this is gonna have that flange run right across here. This needs to be pushed in just a hair so that it's behind this lip. But so far, this is how we're looking. I'm gonna go off camera for a bit because it's the same thing as always. We're gonna fit, scribe until this edge fits the way I want. Bend this back just a little bit till it fits the way I want. And then I'll show it all fit up perfect in here and hopefully get to tacking within the next little bit. Okay, after no word of lie, probably about an hour and a half of just trimming all these panels down. We have it fitting nice, looking good. It's about time to start tack welding and welding it into place. I've cleaned this edge off, got it ready. We're gonna throw some primer on the back of all of it, on all the weld joints. But so far, it's looking nice and clean. What we'll do is we'll spin you around so I can show a lot better than using the front camera. But I think it makes a big difference not having all that stuff here. A very smooth, clean, flat panel. Hopefully after welding it doesn't move too much. We don't have too much body work to get it straight after that, but I think this is a big difference for our engine bay. So here we are. Like I said, in quite a bit of fitting and refitting. It's nice and flushed down to our old panel here. Flushed along here. We're gonna, once this is welded, we're gonna hammer and dolly it just to add a little bit of a curve so it's not a point along here, which I've already hammered this section back because it used to sit way out here. So we go in line. We're gonna make a little filler plate to fill up this hole. But overall, a very nice piece. and it should definitely turn some heads for people who know what E36 engine bays look like when this is all done. Because overall, if I can find a spot, I think this looks really good. We've got our filler panel here, all the holes filled up, our little structural piece here, which probably adds some strength, but it's mainly for looks. Our reinforcement on the top, which is definitely needed. All the brackets, all the holes filled over here, looking very top notch, and nothing's going to be over here when we're done. Hopefully I don't need to run a single wire or line in this area, but we'll know then. But versus what we had stock with that big gap, obviously all the brackets are already gone, all our holes over here. So overall, this is looking way better. Can't wait to get this side done. Very excited to get this at least in primer so we can see it as all one color, so we don't have, you know, the bare steel, the black, the primers everywhere. I really want to see this all in one color. Maybe once I'm done this, the next video we'll just get this area prepped and in epoxy at least up to maybe this area, because we got some more work to do, but get like this side epoxied up so we can see it as one complete thing. Plus spring is on its way, everything's melting. Every time I touch this it's going to end up rusting, so we'll have to clean this up real nice and get it prepped. But with all that, I kind of got as much as I could get done this weekend. Next video will be welding it and hopefully primering it all in one go, maybe even starting on the driver's side. But from there, I hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this, and we'll see you next time.